All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. It's been a long time, but we are here with some League of Legends DFS picks for FanDuel and DraftKings. LPL LCK Summer Split is back, and we're here to talk about the June 9th slate. It's tonight, tomorrow, depending on what part of the world you're in. But we're going to break it down how to build lineups on FanDuel and DraftKings for League of Legends, why it's one of the best daily fantasy sports out there, both for being profitable and for sweating. And we're going to talk through tonight's slate, starting lineups, lineup strategies, how the salaries differences are impacted on FanDuel and DraftKings, and take any questions you have. So it's 10:15. We'll be here till about 10:45 p.m. Eastern. Any questions you have, throw them in the chat to the right of the YouTube channel. We'll answer them here live. So we got a few people in here already. Wayne, Big T Nasty, what's up, guys? What's going on? I'm Brian Jester, co-founder here at Occupy Fantasy, successful League of Legends DFS player, and I'm joined by our League of Legends daily plug writer, which you see on screen here, Mr. Swag Lord Ken himself. Ken, what's up, buddy? Good to see you.
How's it going? I'm doing good. It's been a long time. Been waiting for League of Legends, but we had a lot of sports, so that's been fun. But I'm glad that League of Legends is back, and I can't wait to talk about tonight's slate.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it feels like it's been forever since the spring split, but I'm glad we're back. It's not like last year where in between the spring and the summer split we had literally nothing to do. We were playing outlaw golf, and I guess we had some UFC to fall back on. Maybe some Korean baseball was going on too. But we do have all full sports in session. But it doesn't mean we're not going to analyze one of the most profitable daily fantasy sports out there. And we'll get to that in a second. But Ken, let's get a little refresher here for people who either are watching us now, have never played League of Legends DFS, or are recreational and played during the spring split. Maybe they forgot how to play. But let's talk about why this sport is so great and why, I don't think there's anything like it. No other sport at least has me waking up in the morning rushing to check my phone like my life depended on it.
That's a great ad for League of Legends and DFS in general. I'll start by just talking like a bit about the game. So they play what we do is professional leagues. So we do LCK and LPL, which are the names of the leagues in Korea and China, respectively. So the game, there are five guys on one team and then five guys on another team, and you basically try to destroy the enemy's base before the other team destroys yours. So that's the most basic explanation of League of Legends, and it's actually really all you need to know for daily fantasy. Where so these guys are trying to destroy each other's base, so they try to rack up kills. So since they try to rack up kills, there's scoring in DFS. So you get scoring, you get points for kills, assists, minions slain. So we want to target teams that win, because when you get a bunch of kills, you're more likely to win than not. And then it's a great spot to attack leverage stacks, because there's a real correlation with ownership and money lines, and it's a great spot to take advantage of. And stacking with correlation, it really doesn't matter who you stack, but you can take advantage of these leverage spots. Like, you can stack any team. You don't really need to know anything about League of Legends, like really anything specific. Just stack these teams, follow the leverage stacks in the plug, and it's a successful way to play League of Legends DFS.
Yeah, it's really crazy because I mean we see a lot of these niche sports, right? And we know that they are projections heavy by the field. The field is playing whether it's they're subscribing to the biggest fantasy sites out there and using their projections, or they're just looking at money lines and comparing them to salaries. I mean, League of Legends is the biggest culprit of that, and our eyes light up. I mean, it's a big reason why we're so successful in MMA as well because if you think about it from a game theory perspective, you can easily take advantage. And it's the reason why we've had such big wins in League of Legends DFS. For those who don't know, I won 4 or 5 GPPs last year in League of Legends DFS for 6 figures. And Ken, you've had success as well. A lot of our members have had success. Hell, even one of our longtime members, Hey Sports Fans, if you're in our Discord channel, he won 13K in the LPL opening night a couple nights ago using the strategies that we have in this strategy guide that is free for everybody to read at occupyfantasy.com. So Ken, just talk to me really quickly about lineup strategies, stacking in League of Legends DFS, where to get unique, when to play underdogs, just kind of a high level overview of the sport as far as lineup construction goes.
Sure. So a lot of what we do is high level strategy. We don't really focus on projections or numbers or really any of that stuff. We actually use just basically Vegas money lines and what their totals are and how we construct rosters to get unique and take down these GPPs. So there are a bunch of rules in League of Legends. The most important one is the one called ADC, which stands for attack damage carry. So he's the guy who's most likely to score more points than the other ones. Like he's a guy who racks up the kills. There's also a support, so the support's trying to help the ADC get kills. So these are the guys you want to target in your captain spot or your MVP spot because it's the highest upside. So since ADC has the highest upside, we want to look to captain them and MVP them. And then that allows us to get two ADCs. So we get one ADC in captain, and then we get another one in flex. So what we want to do is there are 7 slots. We can stack a maximum of 4 players from one team, which leaves 3 players from another team. And that's what we're trying to do. So we want to 4-3 stack. Ideally, you want to use an ADC captain. You want to stack these leverage stacks. So leverage stacks they could be underdogs. Sometimes they're small favorites, but they go overlooked by the field because of certain biases the field may have. Maybe they don't project nicely. So these are actually the spots that we want to take advantage of. And we want to stack them 4-3, ideally with 80 carry. And that helps our upside. And it also helps us be unique because, leverage stacks, they're low owned. If we don't play the chalk, then if somehow these stacks hit, I say somehow because it takes a lot for them, but they can score well, and then we'll be at the top in our contest.
Yeah, and the biggest thing to realize when you're playing League of Legends DFS, and again, we're going to get to tonight's slate here in a second. Just want to give you guys some context to the sport and how to build lineups. The biggest thing to know, especially for tournaments, and that's what we're all here for, to win the tournaments. The biggest thing is that salaries don't necessarily correlate with upside. They correlate with win probability. So in low risk contests, it makes sense to maximize your win probability, especially when the difference between a winning player and a losing player, their fantasy scoring is so drastic. But in high risk contests, just because uh, it's not like NBA, it's not like I guess football could be another example as well, where the lowest salary player can't outscore the highest salary player in the NBA. It's not going to happen. League of Legends, the lowest salary ADC can outscore the highest salary ADC if they win, and so that's why we'll see tons of salary left over. That's why we see underdogs go way lower owned because you can fit in higher win probability, but doesn't mean that they're guaranteed to score on points if they win. So keep that in mind as you're building your lineups for this summer split. Let's see. We got Nick in the chat. We got Notam. We got all the Discord members in there. Speaking of which, if you want to join our Discord channel, talk about League of Legends, sweat the games as they're happening, click the join button right below this video. That'll get you access to our Discord channel. OccupyFantasy.com/Discord is where you can learn more information. So Kim, LPL, LCK. We normally get these 4-game, 5-game DFS slates, and let's talk about tonight's. So they don't give us an easy one right off the bat. We get a minus 2,000 money line favorite essentially. Let me do a quick refresh of the page here, and FPX a minus 2,000 favorite. Then we have some other smaller favorites minus 200 to minus 330. So when you see betting odds like this, what are your first thoughts on how you analyze a slate from a high level?
So I actually looked at this slate a couple days ago, and it clicked instantly into what you kind of want to do with this slate, for me at least. So I looked at FPX, so they're a large favorite, and then you look at LNG, they're a smaller favorite, but they're actually the second largest favorite on the slate. And then you've got these 2 LCK games, which are close to coin flip, but not really, so they're smaller favorites. And then I looked at these odds, and these odds are weird because early on in the season, like how can anything be accurate? I wrote that we're basing these odds off how these teams played 2 months ago, and the game has changed. It changes a lot in 2 months, so it's changed so much. Where like, are these odds even close to what it should actually be? So I looked at these underdogs. I'm like, these are actually great leverage spots to take advantage of because, like, who knows? Like, this is the first game of the split. No one's seen anyone play. Maybe a team has caught on to a shift before another team. So if one of these underdogs actually come through, we know they're not going to see ownership because they're plus 170 or plus 210 or whatever it is. So they're going to see reduced ownership. So I thought it was a great spot to attack these underdogs. So specifically HLE, Bro, and V5. And then since FPX is a minus 2,000 favorite, we can just pair them up together and we get that win probability. Hopefully, some underdogs hit. FPX, they shouldn't lose, but they might. And then LNG was a team I'm looking to avoid tonight because if you check the pricing on DK, you can't really fit in FPX or LNG. So it looks like it's going to be one or the other. And if I want to pair a team up, I'd rather pair it up with FPX because they're just such a bigger favorite.
Yeah, I mean, it makes the most sense, right? I mean, we may not know uh, the margin of error when games are minus 300 or minus 200, but we can feel at least somewhat confident that if a team is minus 2,000, they're probably a pretty significant favorite, right? Splitting hairs when you get smaller down the money line, but when it's that big, it's probably safe to say that they're the safest team on the slate. And yeah, Notem points out in the chat all the kill totals. And again, you can get these from any sports book. We use Pinnacle Sports, and these are the projected number of kills for the first game of the series. Ken, you and I were talking today. Sports books have really low limits on these kill totals. We've talked about it during the spring split when we did streams, how they have really low limits. A small amount of money can move these totals. And, basically these sports books are just like, who the hell knows? Let's just put up 24.5 for every game and let's see what the money tells us.
Yeah, it's such a weird phenomenon because it's like 24 and a half and the limits are actually it's just a couple $100. So I guess anyone can bet it and put these totals out. But the thing about League of Legends is that like these kill totals are barely like it doesn't really hit. It's not like the NFL where if a total is 43 and a half, like good chances you get a game somewhere around 43 and a half. But in League of Legends, it's a way different game because you never know. Sometimes people, escape with like 2 bars of health, or sometimes they die. So these kill totals are really there's a lot of randomness and they really vary from match to match.
Yeah, and so that can be hard to predict. And if you're watching this, you may think, well, shit, how do I get an edge if it's hard to predict? Well, that's the beauty of it. We use that to our advantage. The field thinks they can predict it with incredible accuracy. Probabilities become certainties. And so if one team is projected to score more kills than the other team, all of a sudden that becomes gospel. Ownership flocks to them. And then the true odds, the true probabilities of these underdogs are much higher than their ownership. Like we'll see these underdog stacks at 10%, 20%, when in reality the probabilities are much higher that they're the most optimal team on the slate. So something to keep in mind. And I know we got Nick in the chat. He plays over on FanDuel, so we've talked a lot about DraftKings so far. Ken, talk to me about the difference in FanDuel salaries and how that changes our approach over there.
Sure. So FanDuel, to no one's surprise, really has a lot softer pricing, which might be true in actually every sport. But FanDuel, there's also no multiplier for your MVP spot. So one thing you really want to do is really get the ADC in because sometimes on DraftKings, when you stack teams, it's difficult to cap an ADC. But since there's no multiplier on FanDuel in your MVP, so really try to get the ADC in. That ensures you have the most upside with 2 ADCs in your lineup. And also for tonight specifically, like T1 and LNG, they're favorites. So they're minus 200, they're minus 300 respectively. They're also like super cheap, and T1's even cheaper than their opponent, which is it's crazy. So you'll see a lot of ownership actually flock to. I was building earlier, and you can get some T1 and FPX. So you'll see a lot of ownership flock towards these mispriced favorites, and it's a great spot to take advantage of and actually play their opponent. So don't play the teams that are mispriced and play their opponent. And if their opponent wins, like who else is going to stack these guys? They're mispriced underdogs, they're expensive underdogs, but they somehow can score well. Then it won't be many lineups that you have to compete with at the top there.
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing small field, you're playing low risk contests. Yeah, I mean, you take advantage of these mispricings. But if you're playing the Nexus, which I think is the big GPP over there on FanDuel, then yeah, you can get an underdog who's going to win 40% of the time, 30% of the time, whatever it may be, at 5% ownership, which is really crazy. So yeah, be cognizant of the mispricings, but then use that to your advantage when you know that their opponents are going to go way under owned. And we know underdogs go under owned in League of Legends DFS in general, but especially so when they're sometimes more expensive than their opponent over on FanDuel. So, um, all right. So if you guys have questions, we're here until 10:45, so another 15 minutes or so. If you have questions, throw them in the chat. We'll answer them here live. If you like what you see, click the subscribe button, get notified whenever we go live here on YouTube. Give us a thumbs up if you want to see more esports content here on YouTube. So Ken, I'm going to scroll back up. Again, this is the daily plug. Ken writes it for every LPL plus LCK slate with 4 or more games on the slate. And he comes in, he talks about ownership tiers, leverage stacks, popularity. Really, it's just a high level roadmap to the slate. So can actually, you know what? Before we get there, let's talk about starting lineups because we haven't mentioned that yet. What it means, where to look for them. So, if you're new to League of Legends DFS, LPL, the Chinese league, they put out their starters 12, 18 hours in advance. You can find them on Twitter very easily. LCK does not announce their starters, the Korean league, ahead of time. The first game of the slate, you can find the starters on Twitter 45 minutes before, but we'll never find the starters for the second game ahead of time. So Kim, you come in here, the starting lineups, you put the confirmed lineups for LPL, you put your best projected guest lineups for LCK with question marks in red. Talk to me tonight about starting lineups, some potential trouble spots.
Sure. Just to start with LPL, these are confirmed lineups for game one. There may be some mid-series substitutions, but there's not much you can do about that. So just don't be scared and play the guys in LPL. In LCK, we've got to no one's surprise, we've got some red spots here. First game of the split here. So Sandbox, they LSB is Sandbox, and they promoted a couple academy players, including King Kong, who's in ADC, and they actually listed him first when kind of releasing their roster. So I'm projecting King Kong to start, but it could be Prince. They played with Prince for a lot of weeks the last split. This is one I would actually recommend being around for. So usually 45 to 75 minutes before lock, somewhere in there, we'll get the starting lineup. I would I would go with Summit. Summit at top. I think he'll play because he's a good player. But King Kong and Prince is up in the air for me. So something I would stick around for. And then for Bro, so BRO, Fredit Brion, they played two mid laners last split and they swapped back and forth. I have Lava, but I also have him listed in red, but I'm projecting him to start because I thought they looked better with him. They also listed him first in the roster they released. So I have Lava, but it could be the backup Yaha wrong. So I would stay up for this one, but I think Lava will play, but it could be an avoid if you don't want to stay up. And then T1 and HLE. So if you guys have been following, T1 is like the biggest. They had a 10-man roster and they kept subbing back and forth last split, but they did come out last week and said they want to stick with the 5-man roster. Nearing the end of split, they did play the same 5 guys for maybe 3-4 weeks. So I'm projecting that they start those 5 guys and we won't see much to change. But it's the risk is there since T1 is T1 and they have a bunch of guys. But I think they'll play these 5 guys. And then HLE, they've got 2 junglers in Arthur and Johan. I think Arthur plays because he played the last 2 games. They also listed him first in the roster, so I think he starts. But this is actually an avoid for me because we won't know these lineups before lock. So there's a lot of roster news to keep track of tonight.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be an LPL LCK slate. There weren't HLE substitutions. There weren't T1 roster uncertainties. I mean, to be fair, we do get some really profitable spots when there are unknown lineups, especially on underdogs, because you'll legit get those guys at like 1% ownership in the large field contest. Small field contest, no need to touch it. But if you're playing the big GPP, you have tickets or you're maxing or whatever it may be. Those are really, 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 really good leverage spots. So. All right, scrolling down here in the daily plug. Again, if you have questions, throw them in the chat. We'll answer them before we get out of here at 10:45. Ownership tiers for tonight. This is how we project ownership to shake out. So highest owned of the group, FPX, LNG. No surprise, the 2 LPL favorites. Mid-owns, kind of in that middle group of ownership, LSB, T1, HLE, and then the lowest owned teams and stacks that we think tonight will be Bro, V5, and the team formerly known as E-Star. So, Ken, when you're making lineups, let's say, I mean, we mostly tell people to play small field contests, 100-player leagues, 500-player small GPPs. That size field, how are we combining these ownership tiers to have a lineup that's unique enough, but not too crazy for that size of a contest?
So when playing these small field contests, whether it be 100 people or 500 people, we actually want win probability in our lineups. So we want a decent team. Since we're stacking two teams, we want one team to actually have, be a big favorite and have decent win probability. So I wouldn't deter from going towards these highest owned in small fields. So FPX or LNG, these guys will be high owned, but they're high owned for a good reason because they're likely to win and they're likely to score well. So I would look to pair up with one of those guys. And then every slate is different, but these mid-owned LSB, T1, HLE, they're all playable because you're not trying to beat a lot of people. So if you want to pair one of these teams up with a high own, what you really don't want to do is pair up the two high owned teams together because that's a chalk construction and you're very likely to be duplicated. But take one of these mid-owned teams, pair it up with a large favorite, and then you should be good because you're not trying to beat as many people. And then even if you want to go even lower and pick one of these low-owned teams and pair it up, then you won't even really have to worry about much roster construction or ways to get unique if you pair one of these low-owned teams with a high-owned team.
Yep, exactly. And we talk about this concept in literally every daily fantasy sport is the resistance it takes to get to the top of the leaderboard when you're playing a really popular combination or a combination of players or a really popular stack. So if you play FPX and LNG together, one, there are only so many ways that you can pair them together. And if you do that and everyone else is playing them, then you really have to thread the needle if those two teams win and are optimal to get to the top. You're going to be competing with a lot of different people. However, if Bro V5 or Up wins, I'm gonna stick with Bro V5 and HLE because Up is a different story. Bro V5 HLE have 20 to 40% win probability, maybe higher depending on the money lines or our perception of the games, but they're gonna be owned way less. And so if in that scenario they win, you're only competing with 10% of the lineups in your contest. That's much easier to get to the top than 40, 50%. Now, ES is a different story because their ownership might actually equal their chances of winning 5%, right? Small field contest, no need to take that risk. Large field, maybe. Even tonight, you have to cut some teams out if you're making lineups. Still probably want to cut them out, but just remember that if you're playing really popular teams together, so are other people, and it's really hard to win a contest. It might be easy to cash, but hell, Ken, I mean, even looking at like the Triumphant Warrior, the 333, when we see, I'm just looking at the spring split last year, when we see a slate where there are two chalk teams, like two minus 1,500 favorites, and everyone in the field is pairing them together, even if they win, you can still not cash despite having the two highest scoring teams in your lineup.
Yeah, I agree. You see a lot of chalk constructions. There there's also like an insane amount of duplications in that large 333 contest. But yeah, so you miss out on the cash because everyone's running these chalky constructions, which means leverage stacks are actually even better in these higher dollar contests. So if you know everyone is running chalk, then I would actually do yourself a favor and run one of these leverage stacks tonight. It'll just be you. It'll be less people to beat at the top, so it's even better to pick one of these leverage stacks and roll with it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. The leverage is always key. You're not going to win every night doing this. In fact, you're not going to win more than 50% of the time probably doing this. But when you win, you're going to win the first place prize or close to the first place prize and make up for all those losses 5, 10, 20 fold. So just keep that in mind. All right, 5 minutes left. If you have any final questions about League of Legends DFS or tonight's slate in particular, go ahead and throw them in the chat. You can always join our Discord channel. Click the join button below the video. Chat with us throughout the night. Wake up and sweat with us in the morning for these League of Legends games. And Ken, let's talk about some contest selection. We talked about the tournaments to play, but let's not forget satellites. One of the biggest keys to having a chance at a life-changing payday. So, any satellites that stand out to you on either site for tonight that we should be targeting?
Yeah, I've got some listed here. They've got the Euros kickoff, which happens on Friday, so that'll be awesome. Or on the satellites for Saturday, and then there's also a 555 LCK LPL Summer Slayer on June 23rd. So these are satellites that are good to target. I actually messaged DraftKings today to put even more satellites. So we've got,
Good man.
hopefully we'll see some tennis or some MLB or some more satellites, but satellites are definitely something to target.
Yes, I mean, especially these cross-sport ones, right? Like when you have a League of Legends satellite into a tennis contest, right? I mean, that's never filling. Only the true
Yeah.
degenerates are playing those contests, and so you get some overlay to add to the fact. So definitely check that out if you're in the DraftKings lobby. Um, let's see here. Yeah, Nick in the chat says, if you two off a support in a team on FanDuel, that it's instantly unique. Yeah, so again, check out our League of Legends strategy guide, OccupyFantasy.com. Just click the guides link at the top, strategy guides, League of Legends. It's also linked in the daily plug. It talks about all the lineup strategies, FanDuel and DraftKings, to get unique. And if you play on FanDuel specifically, I'm sure you'll find some strategies that work. But really, we're just looking for lineup constructions that don't necessarily cap our upside or change our upside that much at all, but the field isn't using them. And now we don't have to worry about tying with people or having more resistance trying to get to the top of the leaderboard. So, all right, Ken, 3 minutes left. Any final thoughts on this slate for any contest, whatever it may be?
Just to sum it up, I think I really like the underdogs tonight, HLE, Bro, and V5. I think they're valuable because, like I said earlier, we really don't know what these teams are. It's the first game of the split. Maybe some coaches have figured it out for these teams, and all it takes is one of these underdogs to win, and we've got a leverage stack that we can really attack. An analogy I saved for today was when the Niners in their Super Bowl year they had a Week 2 matchup against the Bengals, who were 1-15 that year, and the spread for that game was like pick. So if you ran it back a couple weeks later and you remade the game, you'd see Niners be like maybe 10-point favorites. So I'm hoping we can see something like that today where you know, maybe these true odds aren't plus 180. Maybe HLE has a 50-50 chance to win. Maybe Bro, it's a 50-50 chance to win. And that just instantly becomes more valuable because we're getting them at reduced ownership based on what the field thinks.
Great analogy, and that's in the biggest market in North America in the NFL, not League of Legends with its $250 bet sizes. So incredible example. We don't know the true talent levels, cohesion, upsides of any of these teams yet. This is their first or second game of the split, and as a result, the money lines aren't nearly as accurate, which is great news for us when playing leverage stacks in League of Legends DFS. So, all right, that'll do it for this video. We appreciate everyone tuning in. For more League of Legends content, check out OccupyFantasy.com, read our daily plug and our free strategy guide. Join our Discord channel to chat with Kim and other OccupyFantasy.com members about League of Legends strategy. Click subscribe right below this video to our YouTube channel. Get notified whenever we go live, upload any new videos. We got PGA videos coming this week, UFC pay-per-view, MLB, NBA Showdown. We got some videos lined up. So make sure you click subscribe and give us a thumbs up. That lets us know that we should continue to make more of this type of content. If you like League of Legends, esports, give us a thumbs up. And the more thumbs ups we get, the more likely we are to create these types of videos. So for Swag Lord Ken, you can follow him on Twitter at Swag Lord Ken, or talk to him in our Discord at St. Kenneth. I'm Brian Jester at Brian Jester FF. We're at Occupy Fantasy on Twitter and Instagram. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Good luck tonight, and we'll see you soon.